Going to turn our attention to GA, and delighted to say the former Cavan star Seánie Johnston is back with us on the show this morning. Morning, Seánie, how are things?
Morning, man. How are you?
Keeping well. So we're looking at the fixtures here. Tomorrow we've got the Division 4 final at Croke Park, 5 o'clock, Wicklow and Sligo, followed by yourselves, Cavan Fermanagh, at 7:15, and then the Sunday doubleheader, of course, is the Division 2 and 1 finals. You've got Derry and Dublin at 1:45 and Mayo Galway at 4 o'clock. We might as well start with the Division 1 final, I suppose. Seánie, funny, Cian Johnson, who we work with, has been putting together a few notes, and these two teams, their record in finals, national finals, isn't great. Galway have only won 3 of their last 13, Mayo have won 2 of their last 20, and Galway not winning a league since 1981. Who wanted more this weekend, Seánie? It sounds like a stupid question, but Mayo have the of course the championship to think of the following week.
Yeah, but they've been forewarned, I think, about the pitfalls of not performing in a league final after last year. I think they got schooled last year by 15 points, 3-19 to 13 or something last year, and they never really recovered. I know they will say that they got a lot of injury problems last year and so on, but it's hard to recover from a beating like that. As you say, Galway haven't won a league title since 81. Both teams have struggled to win national titles, so I think this is going to be a cracker because I don't see any other way. I know Mayo have a game in 6 days' time, but I think there's another thing to this, that like both these teams can't make a provincial final, obviously. One of them is not going to make a provincial semi-final. So the team that finishes higher in the league or wins the league title will actually be seeded higher than the team that beat in the league final in the All-Ireland. So there's a couple of things up for grabs, but I think just winning a national title for either of these teams at this stage of their development would be huge.
It's fascinating because it's the best attack against the best defence in Division 1. So Mayo scored 126 points in the league campaign. To date, Galway have only conceded 81. So the matchups are going to be quite important. Aidan O'Shea has kind of come into his own in this league campaign, found his best position, no doubt, at full forward. But Sean Kelly at full back for Galway, I guess we're expecting those two to be on each other, but you just never know.
No, you don't know, and I think if and there'll be obviously a lot of planning and plotting this week, and you're looking at what Sean Kelly's going to do for Galway from an attacking sense on turnovers and so on. He's going to do exactly what he did, you'd imagine, against Kerry, where he's just literally going to bang forward. As soon as that ball breaks down, he's going to go off Aidan O'Shea. So, Mayo don't want a situation where Aidan is tracking 40, 50, and with Sean Kelly, it's potentially 70, 80 yards up the field, 7 or 8 times a half. So, you're looking at your wing forwards here, whoever they play, probably Fionn McDonough and Jordan Flynn, that they're probably going to be warned that when Sean Kelly goes, your job is to track him as quickly as you can, and then a corner forward or Aidan O'Shea will drop out to, say, John Daly at centre back or one of the wing backs to stop him having to go up the field, because he has been so prominent for Mayo in attack. He has given them a completely new outlook in terms of how they can play. A lot of the times they would run the ball, and now they're just given that option to play those pops, and he's so physically strong. And the other thing for Aidan O'Shea, if Sean Kelly does pick him up, if I was him, I'd be getting my hand up in the air as quickly as you can and looking for that ball in the air. If there's one area that Sean Kelly is, and I'm not even going to say it's a weakness because there seems to be very little weaknesses in him at the minute, but to try and exploit him physically in terms of size in the air, because on the ground he is nearly unmatched in the country at the minute.
You wonder if Galway worked on that long ball into the full back line, because we saw in the All-Ireland final last year, Seánie, Kerry clearly came to Croke Park with that plan to kind of launch the ball on top of the Galway goalkeeper Conor Gleeson, and to a large degree it worked. David Clifford picked up a lot of marks as well in an attacking sense. So you'd like to think that from a Galway perspective, since the All-Ireland final, they'd have worked on that.
Yeah, you'd imagine they would, but if you look at the Armagh League game this year, they got another very soft goal off it. As you rightly mentioned, Clifford got a couple of Hail Mary balls went in that were not necessarily a training ground move, and Clifford went up and plucked it out of the skies. So it's something that teams are definitely going to target, because this Galway team are so well set up defensively. They're so compact when teams try and play in and around them and play through the lines and move it around, that this is an area of concern for them. It's something that, as you rightly say, they got really exposed at in the All-Ireland final last year. There has been snippets of exposure for them still in the league this year. So, with their management team that's in place there, you can imagine they're putting a huge amount of work in, but it's not an easy fix.
It's not. And I look at the Galway team in recent games, and you're seeing players coming through like John Maher and Tom O'Callaghan, for example. Robert Finnerty came off the bench as well. They do seem to have a strength and depth that maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago they didn't quite have. So they're kind of going from strength to strength. And then you see Damien Comer coming off the bench last week with his bionic leg, like almost adds an extra dimension, an extra ball in as well.
Yeah, and he's obviously not as tall as Aidan O'Shea, but he gives them that physical presence in there. He gives them another option of how to play. Tierney has been phenomenal at wing forward. Finnerty was brilliant last year. Like, it really struck to me how good Finnerty is when you saw what Derry did with Finnerty to put Chrissy McCaig on him. And you're looking at Rory Gallagher has openly come out and said Chrissy goes on who they perceive to be the other opposition's best forward, and they had Shane Walsh and they had Comer. So Finnerty is highly rated by a lot of very astute inter-county managers. Him coming back is a big thing for them. Like I said, Tierney has been outstanding. They have a lot of outlets to get scores. So if Walsh is held down, which is very hard done, someone else will pop up. If Comer's held down, which he was in the All-Ireland final, Walsh come up trumps. So they have a lot of strings to their bow, Galway.
Would you be a bit worried about... worried is definitely overstating it, Johnny, but the Shane Walsh been kept scoreless the last day. I mean, maybe it's just the quality of opposition from play. He's obviously... He's easing himself back in post-club, post-Australia, and this is just the way it has to go for the next couple of weeks. And once the championship kicks in, as you say, it gets pretty spicy and kind of pretty quickly. But once it kicks in, that we'll see a better version of him, or are you at all worried about that?
I'm not one bit worried about Shane Walsh. He is just quality written all over him. If you looked at the championship last year, he got a brilliant goal at one stage in Connacht against Roscommon, I think. But Armagh, he was fairly well held down. Derry, McCluskey did a decent job on him. And then big day, All-Ireland final, just, complete explosion of talent, class, everything that you look for on All-Ireland final day. And he has it in spades. So, he's a really, really good player. You'd imagine this break will probably do him the world of good. All-Ireland club title in his pocket. Again, was held down reasonably well in the All-Ireland club final by Glen. I'd say before that game, if Glen had said we'll hold Shane Walsh to, I think he might have got a point from play. Even if he got that, they would have said, geez, we're absolutely delighted with this. But no worries about him. I think this break will do him good. He's probably easing himself back in, as you say, and he'll be ready for the White Heated Championship, I think.
It's tough for us to really assess, I guess, in the last week or so where Mayo are at. A raft of changes for that 6-point defeat to Monaghan in Castlebar, and of course Mayo had already secured the Division 1 final. Monaghan were desperate to stay up. So can we kind of tell where they're at? Because when a team makes a lot of changes like that the week before a final, it kind of confuses us all because we don't really know where they're going to go with the team from here. Yeah,
well, look, you imagine they're going to go as strong as they can go on Sunday. Like, Mayo are in a good place, but they still need a big performance this weekend, and they need to win this weekend as well, just to cement all the positive work that has been done throughout the first 6 National League games. Now, if you're in the Mayo management team, you wouldn't be overly happy with last weekend. Yes, obviously Monaghan are coming to Castlebar fighting for their lives, but a lot of Mayo players got opportunities to put their hand up, whether that's to make the 15 or whether that's to make the 26, and they didn't really perform last week. So Mayo are going to, you'd imagine, go back to the tried and trusted of what they've been trying to do over the first 6 National League games. They have been very, very impressive. They've implemented a defensive structure that I haven't seen them have before, with a couple of new bodies in there. And look, they've lost obviously 2 brilliant defenders as well, but the last time I was on the show, I don't know what way I was feeling, but I tipped them to win the All-Ireland, so I can't really step away from it now. But this game is a big game for both teams on Sunday.
The Division 2 final that precedes it on Sunday, Seánie, cracker, Dublin Derry, all looking forward to this one as well. And their game up in Owenbeg, I think it was, or Static Park, I can't remember which, but was a brilliant game. The surprising element last week was watching a certain Stephen Cluxton running out of the Dublin dressing room. 41 years of age, out for a couple of years. We hadn't heard any rumours of this, which to me in this day and age is quite remarkable, with social media especially. Has this taken you massively by surprise? And I guess the second part of the question is, does he start? Because he's Stephen Cluxton.
Yeah, massively by surprise. But I think what I will say is, for me, that just shows the absolute trust and strength in this Dublin machine. And it's not just this year, it's been there since 2013. It's unbelievable that, as you say, in this day and age, that news did not break. Now, Dessie Farrell has openly come out and said that Cluxton has been training for a few weeks. Like, for anybody listening to that, it's so hard to believe that. Obviously, I do believe it. I take the man at his word. But for nobody to see that, witness that, and just a little whisper to come out of that camp is incredible. Does he start? No, I don't think he'll start. David O'Hanlon has done really, really well in the National League. I watched him closely that day in Celtic Park, and he was very good. But this is a cracker. I think this is an acid test for Derry. This has actually happened before. I think in 2014 in Division 1, Dublin went up to Celtic Park and lost. And then the National League final, they absolutely disposed of Derry very, very easy. I think I remember Bernard Broden got a cracker of a goal, hammered them by about 15, 16 points. And again, Derry never recovered. Now, it's important to note, boys, that this is a completely different Derry. And it's also an absolutely completely different Dublin than where they were in 13, 14, 15, 16. So I think it's going to be a cracker. It's the game I'm most looking forward to, I think, this year. It's not very often you go into Division 1 and Division 2 National League finals where you have 4 All-Ireland, real All-Ireland contenders playing. So it's really good at this early stage of the year.
Seánie, just one last one on Cluxton for me. There was a big debate on the football pod this week. Paddy saying that he couldn't possibly see how there would be a negative spin on this. James saying it could be a negative in terms of the impact on the team. There's been so much debate about that question that you've answered there in relation to whether he should start or not. And actually a lot of his former colleagues, and I see Dean Rock in one of the papers this morning saying that as well, that he won't be happy to be on the bench. Just on that negative positive thing, where do you sit on it?
Absolutely positive. What a player. I know him particularly well from DCU. Great guy, so focused. With Stephen, will he be happy not to play? No. Will he allow that to fester in the group? Absolutely not, from my experience of him. So he's going to add so much. David O'Hanlon has come in this year with very little experience. Imagine the learnings he can get off him. Also, imagine the competition it's going to bring in within those 3 goalkeepers in O'Hanlon, Comerford, and now Cluxton coming back in. To me, competition is still the most important facet of building a really, really competitive team, that nobody is safe. You would imagine there, David O'Hanlon, for the first X number of league games, Evan Comerford's injured. He knows he's going to play. Now there's a little bit, I need to work harder here. So to me, it can only bring positives to the Dublin camp. And also the quality he brings. It's not even what he's going to bring off the field. The quality that man can bring on the field in terms of his kick-out strategies and so on. Now, even if he played this weekend, you mightn't see the best of him because Derry likely won't put a massive hard press on him. They'll go man-to-man, which they have done nearly all over the field in terms of kick-outs. And at times they'll give up kick-outs to him. But long-term, in terms of the championship, he could play a massive part. Just
on that piece that you two say, you obviously have played with him and know him inside out. Johnny Sexton used to talk about not being too giving to the other 10s around the camp. I think that might have changed laterally in his career, but there was certainly a point where he didn't want to be showing them exactly all the good stuff. What would Stephen Cluxton's approach to that be?
Give a little, but there's still a little few tricks of the trade that he might want to give away. Again, the reality is he's fighting now. He has to fight for his place. He didn't, when I say he didn't have to do that, he obviously did have to do that, but he was so far ahead and his mentality was so far ahead and he was so driven. And that drive is something that's very, very difficult to lose. Does it wane potentially as the years go on and the body gets sore and so on? Yeah, but this man is made of different stuff. We've seen that over the last 20 years. You look how far he has come from that famous day against Armagh years ago, I think in around, I'm going to say 04 or 02 maybe even. It was a long, long time ago when he kicked Stephen McDonnell. And there's always been a massive competitive spirit in Clucko. He's not coming back for any other reason than to win an All-Ireland and be on the field when Dublin win the All-Ireland. So, yeah, there's a fight on the hands for those 3 goalkeepers, and I'm saying it's one that he's very, very fully focused on winning.
Finally for me, Seánie, so mentioned the Division 3 and 4 finals, of course. Andy Moore not happy with some of the injury time played last weekend when Sligo beat Leitrim, but really good performance from Sligo overall, and Leitrim did come back into the game. Oisin McConville doing fascinating things with that Wicklow team in his first year as well. Your own County Cavan in the Division 3 decider against Fermanagh in that game last week. I don't know, was it a bit of shadow boxing, but Fermanagh got a good win against Cavan on that occasion. You might just give us maybe a quick prediction then in 4 words, or slightly more if you want. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Who's winning each final?
Cavan. But
we'll start at Division 3 then, go on.
This is a massive game for Fermanagh. Fermanagh have never won a national title. They've done great work to get promotion, but to win a medal in Croke Park would be absolutely huge. Cavan are definitely not wanting to go into Armagh/Antrim. You'd have to say more than likely Armagh in 3 or 4 weeks' time on the back of 3 defeats to Ulster opposition. So both teams are fighting for a huge prize here. I think Cavan will win. Division 4 final is, I think Sligo will win, but Oisin has done unbelievable work with Wicklow. Sligo have no national title either, so it's amazing you're going into to Saturday with 2 teams that have never actually won a national title, never mind won a national title in Croke Park. So there's huge prizes up for stake, and Wicklow won one in 2012, but like, they're not there every year. This is going to bring a huge buzz. There'll be a good crowd in Croke Park on Saturday night, and I'm hoping for 2 big games, but I'm going to go with Sligo and Cavan. And
Division 1 and 2 in 2 words?
Derry, Just, and Galway.
Right. Interesting.
But I think Mayo will win the All-Ireland.
Yeah, they'll bounce back. Well, I think Mayo won the National League in 2001 and Galway went on to win the All-Ireland, so could be a reversal of that for sure. Seánie, great stuff as always. Thanks a million.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Have a good day.
Brilliant. Catch up again soon. Seánie Johnston there, former Cavan footballer.